What is going on, everybody? Sunday afternoon, and it's a beautiful day in the upstate of South Carolina. And there is nothing in the world like April, May, June before college football season. It's talking season. It's when everybody's going to go 12-0 or 11-1 next season, when everybody's quarterback's a Heisman Trophy contender, when everybody's just fixing to have that breakout year, when this is going to be the year for a lot of teams. And then, like clockwork, first weekend in September hits, and that ball's got to get kicked off. And some teams die a quick, painless death, and some of them die a long, drawn-out, painful, excruciating, miserable death. Except for the two that finally make it to the college football playoff championship game first week in January. So, I hope if you're subscribed to my channel that you also take a look at the channel. I'm going to link this video down in the description box below that I'm taking some clips from today that we're going to discuss and talk about. The Dog Post, which normally deals with Georgia Bulldogs talk, headed up by Dean Legge, writer over there for Georgia. This guy's, been covering the Bulldogs for years. He does all things Georgia, and very good. Does a really professional job, and I like the content. And he dropped a video last night talking about the Gamecocks, and that the national media is kind of hyping the Gamecocks up for 2023, and is this hype warranted? And if it's not, why? And just kind of breaking down some stuff there. He's with his two panel members, two younger dudes. Not really sure of their names, but the one on the right hand side is we'll get into him in a minute. But good gracious, Dean definitely carries the load there, and they had some good points. They had some points that I didn't necessarily agree with, and they had a few that just absolutely made zero sense to me. We're going to talk about that here in just a few minutes. So if you haven't already subscribed to the Carolina Jackpot channel, please subscribe to this channel. Hit the thumbs up. We're going to do college football content here all year long. As long as you guys continue to watch it, I'll continue to pump it out. How about that? Let's make a deal. As long as you watching, I'll be producing. But we started off first off in this little video here, where we rolled into it, and the guy on the right in the blue starts talking about 2023, Spencer Rattler, what he did in 2022 and how he's inconsistent, yada, yada, yada. So we know all that. And then he starts talking about Spencer Rattler and how he's going to be able to move the ball down the field effectively. Yeah, you take a look.
I don't think there's going to be this significant leap. If you just look at their roster, I just looked at it. I didn't know any other skill position guys. I don't know who Spencer Rattler's throwing to.
Okay, so we don't know who he's going to be able to throw the ball to. Here you go, Mr. Punchable Face. Here's a couple.
Throw down the field, got a man open, leaping, and Xavier Legatt's got it for a touchdown. Right side now rolling right side. Wants to go on a corner route. He's got a man there. George Wells going at the 30, 20, trying to run away at the 10. He does so. 5. He steps up in the pocket. Throws down the middle. Got his man. Hit the 25, 20, cutting back as Wells.
Yeah, I think he's going to be just fine in the receiving department. In addition to those, he also has a Miriam Brown back there, a third-year player for us. It was a transfer from Georgia Tech, best thing to ever come from Georgia Tech, in my opinion. And we've added in 2 tight ends from the transfer portal. South Carolina's not going to have a problem moving the ball vertically. South Carolina's problem is going to be in the run game. That's where I'm more concerned. But I don't expect you to know that either, because you didn't even know any of the names of the skill players. Which I get it that, a Georgia man is not going to know. They don't really have a reason to study up on players that may or may not make a difference on a team that you've been dominating every year. And I get that. I mean, I've never been in that position. but I can see how that would be a thing. But you can't seriously tell me that you're going to sit there and try to cover SEC football and that you don't know who Juice Wells is. It was an absolute breakout season last year, and could be the top receiver in the SEC this year. And that's not homerism. That's not bullshit. That is straight facts. This guy is an absolute monster for South Carolina, and he's going to make even more noise in 2023 than he made in 2022. But let's get on to this a little bit more here. You might want to know what you're talking about before you start discussing particular topics. So just go and say that just there for real quick. We're talking about the teams that South Carolina normally plays and who they look to as rivals. And the guy over on the left, he had a little bit of something interesting to have to say about the Kentucky Wildcats and their program.
Some really bad losses. They were such a Jekyll and Hyde team because they were massive wins. The Kentucky game is massive to them. They think that they should be a better football program than Kentucky. They think Kentucky's all basketball. There's no excuse why they can't beat Kentucky consistently.
Yeah, so he says that his friend, or his best friend, is a hardcore Gamecock fan, and that we people think that we should be dominating Kentucky, and that they're beneath us as a program, and that they're a basketball school and we should be beating them every year. Well, to a degree, a lot of that's true. South Carolina finally put an end to that nonsense last year in Lexington with a 24-14 score. Should have been 24-7. And, save me the Will Levis was out bullshit. Because if Kentucky competes in the SEC, they should have a scholarship quarterback ready to play and execute a game plan, especially if Carolina is such a terrible team. I talked about that ad nauseum when it happened. Not going to rehash it again. I want to look at 2014 through 2021, whatever it was, except for the 1 year there in 2019 when South Carolina dropped all his games to Kentucky, kind of the way the Tater fans look at their 5 in a row losses to us from 29 to 2013 as kind of a blip on the radar screen, as something that doesn't normally happen. That's where we need to get back to. That's the point that we need to get back to with our program. And then something that Dean gets into here, well, before we get into that part, Dean and the guys, they started discussing Texas A&M as a South Carolina opponent. And Dean had this to say, and I found this part very interesting.
I don't understand it, and the fans don't either.
It was a dumb decision. I understand being stupid. I've been dumb before. Yeah. And I'm not saying I won't be in the future, but they wanted to get Arkansas off their schedule, and they took Texas A&M. Go ahead, Matt.
I went to my first South Carolina game in 1980. Started going to all the games in 1983. Went to all the games for well over 20 years, home games anyway. I've been a lifelong devoted fan. I have followed everything Gamecock-wise related. I know players that you probably never heard of. I've met players you probably never heard of. I've done and seen it all. I absolutely do not remember at any point when South Carolina wanted to get Arkansas off their schedule and get Texas A&M on it. When Texas A&M first joined the conference there, Dean. That didn't happen, and it makes absolutely zero fucking sense why they would have done it. Because at the time, if you'll remember, Arkansas was in the dying days of the Bobby Petrino era, and they were an absolute shit show. They were an absolute clown show. South Carolina beat them 52-7 in Fayetteville back in 2013. And that was the last year that we faced off as cross-division rivals. So, and then you've got A&M who's just come into the conference, and you're sitting here with them. If you remember, in 2012 was the year that they knocked off Alabama when they were #1 in Tuscaloosa. Johnny Manziel won the Heisman Trophy as a freshman. Nobody knew at the time that he was going to flame out and be a complete turd. So why would we have wanted to put Texas A&M on the schedule? You're right. I mean, that makes no sense because it didn't happen. The SEC makes those decisions. They don't ask South Carolina, hey, you want to play Texas A&M every year or you want to play Arkansas? What you want to do, Ray Tanner? Which one you want to do? That didn't happen, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know where you pulled that one from, and I hope you don't expect anybody to really believe it. Then we're done with all the BS. Then Dean gets into something that I have been saying for, well, almost a solid year. Let's take a listen real quick.
23-10. This was their score against Florida, 38-6. Those are huge red flags for me. I mean, that you lost to Georgia by 41 points. I mean, I'm not even being a smartass or an elitist here. That is not that big of a deal. They just got rolled that day. That they lost to Arkansas by 14, that is not a big deal. They lost to Notre Dame by a touchdown. Again, not a big deal. It's a big deal to lose at home to Missouri. That's a problem for me.
So he shares the same thoughts and sentiments that I have been shouting from the rooftops for the better part of the last year. The better part of the last, I don't know how many years. You got to beat the teams that you should be beating. Period. Absolutely no excuse last year for the losses to Florida or Missouri. They were not good teams. They were not good teams. Mizzou had a pretty good defense. Really good at some points, actually. Their offense was absolutely atrocious. Florida, a very up and down team throughout the first 2/3 of the season, and then just absolutely went belly up at the end, but didn't go belly up against South Carolina. That was a very piss poor performance. That I don't really know which one was worse. But it's like they just turned on a magic light switch and go out and blow out a top 5 Tennessee team, and then go take down your hated rival on the road in a game where your back was against the wall and you trailed for much of the game. It doesn't make sense. It's very Jekyll and Hyde, and this is why there are always questions concerning South Carolina. I don't ever really feel like the Gamecocks, I feel like it's been since the Steve Spurrier days when we actually went into a season and kind of knew what we had. It seems like every year it's a toss-up, with some people saying they're going to finish second in the East, or the other half saying they'll finish 5th or 6th in the East. It's like nobody knows. And that comes from just being wildly inconsistent. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I would rather have beaten Mizzou and Florida last year and lost to Tennessee and Clemson. However, if you had done that and you lost those other 2 games and not lost them badly, I think there would be much more, I don't really know how to say it, much more positive energy from the outside towards the program, as in they have kind of gotten to this point and they are they're beating the teams that they should be beating, and now can they get over the hump? Instead, it's like you got over the hump by beating the teams that you should beat before you actually got to the hump by beating the teams that you should be beating, if that makes any sense. Very inconsistent. And it's been a black mark since before Shane Beamer came. Some of the Will Muschamp teams did a lot of the same things. I'm not drawing any comparisons or parallels between Shane Beamer and Will Muschamp by any means either. So don't get that twisted. Those two are as different as oil and water. They are. I want to see consistency this year. Not the boneheaded mistakes, not the games where we just failed to show up and crap the bed. It's time to grow up as a program and get past that. And I feel like they've taken some steps towards doing that, but I'm not totally convinced yet. And I go into 2023 just like I have gone into 2022 and just like I went into 2021 with guarded optimism. And I got a lot of backlash last year when I said I was going into 2022 with guarded optimism. And I picked the team to finish with a record of 7-5. You know, well, I was one game off. That's just the way that it is. I'm not totally sold on this defense going into 2023. There's a lot of holes there that need to be filled, a lot. And we're also going to be sitting here relying on some big-time production from players such as Mo Kaba at linebacker, Jordan Strawn, and Terrell Dawkins at the defensive end positions that, for all intents and purposes, missed the entire 2022 season. The first two got injured in the Arkansas game. Dawkins didn't even see any action last year. But we're going to be dependent on them a lot, and that's a scary proposition. Not to take anything away from Mo Kaba or Jordan Strawn. Hell, this kid led the nation in sacks a few years ago. But there's something to be said for a little bit of ring rust. You didn't play the entire season. It could be dicey, especially at the beginning of the year, especially the first game of the season when you're facing a very explosive offense. So I'm just going into this thing with a glass half empty kind of approach, because I don't want to get disappointed. I don't want to get my feelings hurt. I don't want to get mad. I don't want to get angry. I don't want to throw things. I know I will feel all those emotions regardless, but I kind of like to know that, hey, it may be coming. So just buckle up. I mean, those people that are out there, they're saying we should win 9, 10 games. I mean, you're dumb. It's just dumb. It's delusional. Now, looking at the future, this 2024 recruiting class is absolutely, it's off the chain. We're ranked number 6 right now nationally. Got the top 4 players in state to come to the Gamecocks that are committed right now. You got, most of these kids are 24th. They're at least top 300 players in the nation. At one point, I remember several years ago in Will Muschamp, I don't even think we signed a top 300 player. There were some bad recruiting classes there. There were a few good ones, but he was recruiting mainly 3-star players. Just like Dean was saying, very few 4-stars, and the 5-star would come around once in a blue moon. Once every 3 or 4 years, you would see one of those come around. Now, we're in a position to possibly pick up a 5-star a year, and mainly 4-stars. That's huge. That is going to be huge building for the future. And I know I talk a lot about wait till next year, wait till next year. Well, sometimes it's got to be wait till next year, wait till the year after that. Because the offensive line is another position of need on that team that I'm just not sold on that it's going to be very good in 2023. Wasn't real impressed with it in the spring game. And then we lose that left tackle that we talked about the other day. That was that's huge. I mean, that's a big blow. So you're not going to find anybody to replace him and play up to the level that he was playing at. You've got tons of talent that are freshmen right now. You've got tons coming in the 2024 class, but they can't help you right now. These true freshmen that are coming in, they're probably not going to be able to readily help you out right now. Like we talked about the other day, and I've said it before, that this offensive line position is any of those positions are amongst the hardest on the field to learn and learn the playbook and get it down. You know, you can have the body You can have the footwork and the speed, but if you don't know the playbook yet, you can't read all those defenses, you're not going to be as effective as a freshman as you could be after you've learned that and been in the system for a year or so. So that's a scary proposition. The recruiting, though, is it's off the chain right now. And what is Shane Beamer doing right now that Dabo Swinney is not doing? Because if you look at the trajectory of where these programs are going, just based off the recruiting, South Carolina is definitely trending up. And Clemson they're either treading water or they're kind of going downhill a little bit. Now, I look to just a few things with them, and right now their class is ranked 16th for the 2024 class. That bumped up. They got a commitment from a kid out of Atlanta, or the Atlanta area yesterday, Haven Brown, something or other. You know, they tend to offer players late. They tend to offer them late. And that might have been okay a few years ago when you were winning national championships. You just came off of it. And my God, any offer from Clemson is just like gold dropping into my fingertips. And it doesn't matter where I'm committed to. If I'm offered this late or whatever in the cycle, I'll drop everything and go into Clemson. I just don't think that kids look at them like that anymore. Yes, I realize that the last national championship they won was after the 2018 season. And they competed for one after the 2019 season. But guys, that's getting further in the rearview mirror every day. And newsflash, I don't see you getting back to that level. I don't see you getting back to that level. Dabo, when he's hiring these coordinators, assistant coaches, it's like he has to screw it up before he can fix it. He's got to screw it up first and then go back and fix it. He screwed up his offensive coordinator hires after Brad Scott or Jeff Scott left. The Tony Elliott doing it himself thing didn't work out. So then last year he brings in what they affectionately called Dabo's cousins, and with the Brandon Streeter guy. I mean, and it just didn't work out. I mean, and then you have to turn around, and I mean, there was no reason to think that it was going to work. I mean, this is a guy that absolutely, he tanked Trevor Lawrence's development. Dozens of people have said it. They have said it over in NFL analysts, draft analysts. That said that this guy had to get his mechanics fixed when he went to Jacksonville. His mechanics were better when he came out of high school than they were when he left Clemson. I mean, I didn't say it. So, why you thought that he would be a good offensive coordinator for you is mind-numbing, and just, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And then you look at Shane Beamer's use of the transfer portal to plug holes. He knows what he's doing. And it's no secret to why he's got this program on an upward trajectory and potatoes are treading water right now. It's because, quite frankly, I feel like he's trying harder. He's just trying harder and doing better. There ain't no secret to that. He's just busting that ass a little bit harder than what you are, Dabo. Dabo knows that he's got holes on the offensive line. They haven't taken anybody out of the transfer. They haven't added anybody out of the transfer portal to try to shore up that offensive line. The offensive tackles are going to be a concern. Receivers going to be a concern. They haven't added anybody out of the portal at receiver. I mean, what's wrong with you? I mean, too proud. Now they're talking about jumping on this Xavier Henderson that transferred out of Florida last week, but. I mean, is he going to be your savior? I don't know. Maybe he can field punts without fumbling them. That might be one good thing. But I'm telling you, the hesitancy to offer kids, and he still don't embrace the NIL either. He doesn't embrace the NIL either, and he said a few years ago that he was going to quit when college athletics started getting professionalized. I started playing players. He didn't do it. He didn't do it. They went around and gave up some mamby-pamby BS excuse for, no, this is what he actually meant. No, that's what you said, sir. That's what you said. And then you had to stick your foot in your mouth and turn around and walk the other way when you got called out on your bullcrap. Kids don't like that kind of stuff. And I think that Beamer just comes across as he's a little bit goofy. Yeah, he is. He's got his little quirks too. Like my man Zach Smith over on the Minister Sports podcast says, he looks like he smells like an old man. I'm not really sure what that means, but maybe I could get that. But hey, that's all right. You know, as long as he's winning football games, he's building the culture, he's building this program. I'm all for it. Smell like an old man all you want, dude. Smell like an old man all you want. Ben Gay and all. Hey, I'll go ahead and tell you guys, and you know that I didn't want him when they hired him. When we were sitting there, I was live streaming that Kentucky game in 2020 when we went on the road and we were absolutely getting our ass kicked up around our shoulders by Chris Rodriguez. It's just a deplorable situation with Mike Bobo out there as interim coach in the last game of the season. If they come across that they had hired him, I was like, God, no. I was so, I was just ready to spit nails. I was so mad. I didn't want to. I'm like, well, I mean, why are these, these former players hiring our coach for us? Because all the former players from the early Spurrier years wanted him. They say he's a great recruiter. He's a great motivator. He's a great coach, great guy. You'll love him. And I was like, he ain't never been a head coach before. I mean, what does he know? And I was just I wanted Sunbelt Billy. I'm going ahead and say I wanted Sunbelt. I wanted Billy. I wanted us to be playing some Billy ball in 2021. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. I wanted to coach from Coastal Carolina. Mullet Man. Didn't get him either. Guess what happened? I guess it worked out okay, didn't it? And I'm, so far, okay with eating that crow. I'm okay with eating that crow. I was wrong. But we have to continue to build on it. We've got to continue to build on it. And I'm giving the Clemson man a hard time here. Look, beating you should not be our standard. It should not be our standard. You know, Steve Spurrier said it best when in 2005, when he arrived at South Carolina, there was nothing but a bunch of beat Clemson signs around the locker room. And he said, that's not what we're going to be. That's not what our goal is here. Our goal is to win an SEC championship. He never did it, but he got him out of the mindset that beating Clemson was the only important thing that football program could do. As he said in that interview about the sign, he said, and I went around and I jerked a bunch of them down myself, or jerked a bunch of them off myself. He got a few laughs out of that one. But it's true. That should not be the standard anymore. Competing for that SEC East championship should be the standard. And it might not happen next year, but soon, barring any unforeseen crazy circumstances, and college football is full of crazy unforeseen circumstances. You're looking at a team that's going to be a contender. So I hope you guys enjoyed what I had to say here today. If you didn't enjoy it, you know, I really don't care. I'll speak what's on my mind. 2023, I think, could be rocky. It could be a little bit rocky because I think that defense has got to get shored up. We've got to start recruiting on that side of the ball, and we have been. But they've got to continue. They've got to continue to build that and build on that side of the ball. And come together as a unit and just really just gel quickly, because you're going to need to. As I said, you're facing an extremely high-powered offense in Mac Brown's Tar Heels coming out in game 1, and it's not going to get any easier than that. You got Georgia in week 3. You know, don't come out with your head on a swivel. I mean, things could get ugly quick. So I hope you guys will hit this with a thumbs up. Share this video somewhere. Subscribe to this Carolina Jackpot channel if you're not already. Check me out here on YouTube. Also, check out my other YouTube channel, Rockabilly864. We do some food reviews and have some fun stuff going on over there. Check me out on Twitter if you get time at Hall_Kale. And then over on TikTok, you don't stop. Girl, you make me feel so good. Over at Carolina Jackpot there as well. I'll see you all later. I appreciate it. Peace. And I'm out of here. Go Coach Beamer. Go Spencer Rattler. And go Gamecocks. Woo!